So the reading today is from The Science of Mind, and it's talking about the power of truth. Truth knows no opposites. When we take away the belief in evil, it flees with the dissolution of this belief. We must be continually reminding ourselves of the power of our word and of our ability to consciously use it for good. We must know that truth produces freedom, because truth is freedom. It is in quiet expectancy and in calm confidence that our work should be done. The results rest in the eternal law of mind. So there's a story in the Islamic tradition about a man who went to visit the Prophet Muhammad. And he knew he had some issues, that his life hadn't been perfect. And so he asked the Prophet, he said, "What bad habit should I give up first?" And the Prophet looked at him and said, "Give up telling lies. Tell only the truth." And so the man went along his way, and he thought about it. And the next day, again, this fellow had some issues. And he was feeling the urge to go rob a store. I didn't say it. I didn't. So, but when he was thinking about robbing the store, the next thought that came into his mind is, well, if I were to run into the Prophet Muhammad and he were to ask me what I did today, how could I answer? I certainly don't want to tell him that I robbed a store, and I'm supposed to give up lying. And so he decided not to rob the store. And in the days that followed, he found himself being mindful of other choices. Thought maybe he would go out and overindulge in the fruit of the grapes. And he thought about it, and he realized that if the Prophet Muhammad were to ask him the next day what he had done the night before, he wouldn't feel right saying that he went out and got drunk. And so, once again, it was that or tell a lie, and he was committed to not telling lies anymore. And so, as you might imagine, the story moves on, and as this fellow was thinking about the various things that he could do that maybe he wouldn't really want to cop to in the light of day, he ended up giving up all of his bad habits. And then the story said he went on and he became a good and loyal Muslim. You know, and I think that being a good and loyal Muslim means the very same thing as being a good and loyal person. Because the values of Islam, the values of Judaism, the values of Hinduism, the values of the native cultures, basically so much of it is the same. There is way, 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 way more that is in common than it is different. Now, I have to admit, I have been a fan of legal dramas for my whole life. When I was in high school, my English teacher said I should be a lawyer. And I thought about it, and then I saw The Paper Chase, and I decided that there was just way too much politics and pressure and in that environment that, nah, I can pass on that. So, how often have you watched any of the legal shows over the years, and you see the person getting ready to take the stand, and the bailiff or the master at arms or whatever has you hold up your right hand and say, "Do you promise or swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?" And in earlier versions it said, "So help me God." Don't hear that so much anymore in the spirit of political correctness. And how many times have you just heard that and like, yeah, yeah, okay, fine. The other day, I was thinking about those words, that I promise to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. And I will add, so help me God, so help me life, so help me love. What if I lived my life from that place? What if I made a commitment to myself to tell the truth, only tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, with the acknowledgement that with the power of love, of God, of life, that was possible for me to do. If I could take that oath in a courtroom, why would I not want to take that oath, that solemn oath, with myself? What if I decided to stop telling lies? I see Ned heads nodding. That's a really good idea. And I think that most people consider themselves, especially people who are on a spiritual path, consider themselves to be honest for the most part. I know that since I have become far more spiritually inclined, that when I feel remotely like I need to tell something other than the truth, it just doesn't feel good. Anyone have it? You kind of feel it right in the pit of your stomach. It just doesn't feel right. And I think that it's probably true for most people. And I think that, again, being on a spiritual path and being devoted to developing consciousness and awareness and being a positive and loving presence in the world, that, well, lying, no, I don't lie. I choose not to lie. I do my best to be honest. And I believe that that's true. But you know what? I would venture to say that every person in this room lies every day. Me too. You know why? Because when we are experiencing negativity, when we are harboring unkind thoughts, when we are entertaining fearful thoughts, we're lying to ourselves about life and about God, about the universe. That's why, as Ernest Holmes said, and actually Jesus said the same thing, the truth will set you free. I've always said that I like to tell the truth. I don't like to lie because that way I don't have to worry about keeping my stories straight. Because whenever you say something that isn't true, or when you say something that is true, that's good. But when you're saying something that isn't true, you are binding yourself to something less than your highest expression of life. So think about it for a minute. I invite you as you go out in the week and you find yourself telling yourself, well, I can't do that, or I'm never going to be able to do this, or this is never going to happen, or this is going to be really hard. What are some other statements like that we make? I can't. That's a huge lie. Not enough time. Anybody else? Right, right. So you anticipate something unpleasant or negative. So in each one of those cases, you are already affirming a negative outcome. So as religious scientists and metaphysicians, we know that that is not a really good idea, because we then bind ourselves. And whenever we judge something And that's either judging, saying something good or saying something otherwise. We are, in fact, limiting it and labeling it. Even the good stuff. We can forgive that a lot easier than we can forgive the things that are negative, fearful, limiting. Those are all lies. So when you find yourself thinking a thought or engaging in an activity, I don't know about you, but for me, I've got my little inner liometer, truthometer. Let's put it positive. My inner truthometer. And if something is outside the realm of what's true for me, I can feel it right here. Anybody else? The go with your gut, right? And and you know what? It's true. And what I believe is true is that because part of being on a spiritual path is cultivating our connection with Source, with God, with that which is greater than we are, with love, whatever that is, we work to cultivate that connection. And in doing so, when we cultivate the connection, one of the reasons that we want to do that is because there is communication coming to us all the time. There is the radio station KNOW or WGOD if you're on the East Coast that always, just got that, huh? That always tells us the truth. Always. And so our mission is to learn how to tune into that. And there are so many ways that truth is spoken and revealed to us. Some people, they have a feeling, a visceral feeling. Or it's certainly not exclusive, some people hear a voice. They actually hear words being spoken to them. I personally, for me, I have an idea. It's not like a long drawn out, but just like the aha moment of clarity. And so I know that as I cultivate that connection, the truth is always being spoken to me. And the more I'm tuned in and attuned to it, the more that I can receive the information that is going to enable, empower, and guide me on a path to my highest good. That is the truth. And something difficult is going on. Notice the things that you're saying about it. Notice the dialogue that you're having with yourself about whatever that is. Notice what kind of labels you may affix to it. But most importantly, notice the story that you're telling yourself about it. What is the story that you're telling? And if it is something that talks of lack, limitation, fear, it's a lie. And at any given time, you can choose to stop lying to yourself. Sometimes, some people teach that when you have something going on in your life that you are looking to have a different experience of, that whatever it is, you affirm its opposite. And so if you're experiencing a health challenge, then you affirm that I am perfect, whole, and complete right now. And for a lot of people, that's really powerful. affirming something other than what you're experiencing is always a way to shift your attention from the condition, which is what Ernest Holmes tells us to do as part of practicing the science of mind, is turning away from the condition to the truth. What I find, for me personally, is really, really helpful. Sometimes, personally, I have a challenge initially affirming something that is completely opposite. So that if I'm experiencing a health challenge, I may not be able to go to I am perfect, whole, and complete without all kinds of alarms going off in my head about, well, no, I don't, you know, you're feeling really rotten. So you get this, for me, I get this internal dialogue. However, what I do, and that I think really works for me and at least gets me started, is to say, God is more than this. I can always get there. I can always get there. That when something is happening that is difficult, challenging, painful, and otherwise unpleasant, I can always say, God is more than this. And that gets me on the road, because that is the truth. That is absolute truth. And I know that at the core of my being. And so I can get there like that. Or another one that I like is when you hit a speed bump, or life is taking you on the scenic route that you really hadn't intended to take. What I find myself saying is that everything is unfolding for my highest good. Now, sometimes that's a little bit tough, and I'm fortunate to have had enough life experience to where when I look back on some of the really, I'm just going to say the word awful, things that have happened to me, I have had enough experiences where ultimately, days, weeks, months downstream, those things contributed to something that led me to a elevated, a different, that propelled me along my path. And so I really can say to myself, in honesty, I might be gritting my teeth a little bit though, saying that everything is unfolding for my highest good. Those two statements are really helpful for me, and they are the truth. Just like if you are experiencing lack in any area of your life, whether it be financial, whether it be with respect to the amount of love and friends, or just all kinds of places where you feel that there is something missing, you can always say that God is my source. Always. God is my source. And for me, that reminds me that it is not that job, that relationship, that thing, that new car that is going to make me happy and fulfilled. It may contribute to it. Don't get me wrong. However, it's not my source. And so always I can affirm God is my source, life is my source, love is my source. However that language resonates with you, to affirm a truth. God is all things, life, love, the universe, is all in all the time. And so those are truths that you can tell yourself anytime. We tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. So help me God, so help me life, so help me love. It is that energy, that power that resides within that allows us and empowers us and supports us in knowing the truth. When we are open to recognizing that there is a greater truth that is taking place. Now, there have been times in history where decisions and choices and entire philosophies and ways of being were based on something that ultimately turned out to be not true. For example, the world is not flat. But once upon a time, that's what people believed. And the maps and the choices and everything around that was based on the premise that the world is flat, that you really could sail off far enough and fall off the edge somewhere into the great abyss. But what it took was someone who said, I don't think so. And he hopped in his boat, and he sailed, and he sailed, and he sailed, and guess what? He didn't fall off. So wait a minute, maybe the world isn't flat. And of course, we all know what happened from there, is that the world and people had to change their maps, their way of thinking, their way of planning. Were they wrong when they believed that the world was flat? Well, technically, yes. However, it's all they knew. It's not that they knew something else and went, no, I don't like that, I'm going to go with this. They truly believed that that was the truth about life. And everything they did was based on that fundamental belief. And then someone had the courage to go, I don't think so. And went and pushed the envelope. And then what that person did came back and informed everyone else, so that we had the opportunity to live a more expansive life. I'd say that it's more expansive when you think about the world being much bigger than being flat. You think so? And of course, the one you always hear is, was there electricity in Moses' time? And the answer is yes, but nobody knew about it and nobody knew how to use it. So does that mean it wasn't there? Does that mean it didn't exist? No. It had yet to be discovered. And so during those days, people powered their things that they needed to power the way they knew how, because they didn't know about electricity. And then when electricity was discovered, gee, things got a lot easier. Ernest Holmes says that every time there is a new discovery, God speaks. Every time that there is a new creation, a new work of art, a new act of creativity, God speaks. So do we know everything that there is to know about life now? I don't think so. I really don't. And isn't that true about how we've lived our lives? Where we can look back over times. I know I look back on times and just go, oh, I can't believe I did that. But the truth was, it's all I knew at the time. And so it's very empowering for me to remind myself of that, is that yes, had I had the benefit of hindsight, I would have chosen differently. But I didn't, And I did. And the lie then becomes that that defines who I am. That's a lie. The past is not precedent. The past does not define who we are now. I've been in this teaching for a while, and I know that there's some folks out there that have been in this teaching longer than I have, and I've watched it evolve. And so who are the people that are now being the equivalent to the people who hopped on their boat and said, I'm not so sure that the world is flat? We have people, masters, teachers, even people living that are pushing the envelope right now and helping us to see what's possible. And what I love is that there are so many approaches to learning the truth about life. Science is showing it to us. Philosophy is showing it to us. Medicine is showing it to us. Great thinkers are showing it to us. And that is why we engage and we study and we learn, because they have been the pathfinders. They have laid the foundation so that we can then walk further. They discovered greater truths and opened a much wider range for living. They're trailblazers. Religious science teaches us that healing is revealing the truth. Healing is revealing the truth, and what that means is that there is nothing that needs to be fixed. There is nothing broken. And yes, this is a little hard to swallow sometimes, but there is nothing wrong. And so whatever it is that we talk about healing, in metaphysics, we talk about healing beyond just healing body, physical types of things that are going on in our body. We talk about healing beliefs. We talk about healing relationships. We talk about healing circumstances. And what we're saying is that healing is revealing the truth. And so our mission, as it were, is to continue to be seeking truth. We're not lacking anything. Everything is being revealed in perfect time to each and every person on their unique path. And so it isn't even particularly helpful to look at someone else and judge their path or where they are, or even to compare yourself and start thinking that you're deficient in some way, because you're not. You are on your unique path, and everyone else is on their unique path. And what I know is that everyone is on a path to their highest good. And I think to the extent that we believe that, facilitates that path. The cosmic 2x4 is not a necessity. Sometimes it seems like it. But Ernest Holmes said, I think the world has learned everything that it needs to learn through suffering. And that's part of what our book study is about, is that we can learn through joy, that we can learn through positive and uplifting experiences. And so, because that is possible, the universe is going to support our growth even if it has to kick our butts. But it's not necessary if you and I can take that step to believe that there is a power for good greater than we are. that there is an infinite source. Just the very basic beliefs. Change your thinking, change your life, and you can do that at any time. So right now, this moment, you can choose to stop lying to yourself. Because it is those lies about God, life, yourself, other people, that limit your experience. If you identify too closely with your past and what things have happened, you're limiting yourself. You're telling yourself that this is all there is. This is the most I can hope for or expect. And that's a lie. Limitless possibilities are available to us every day. And it's important to really be aware, because the most damaging lies are the ones that we don't know we're telling ourselves. And yet their effect is really insidious. It absolutely saps our strength, it erodes our self-esteem, it feeds into the idea that we are somehow less than. And that's why it is very important, and your opportunity in the coming week is to really look at your choices and what you're saying and what you're doing, and ask yourself, what story am I telling about this? And if it's a story about fear or lack, you're telling yourself lies, and you can stop right now. And when you do that, you tell yourself the truth about life, you are opening yourself up to the infinite possibilities that are just a breath away. Stop lying and yell the truth from the mountaintops and experience the life that you are here to live. Let's pray.